Ah, help! The dragon is after me. I gotta be quick, otherwise I'm gonna die. Oh, thank goodness, in End City, I'm saved. I heard these have the most OP loot in the game. The dragon stands no chance. Wait, what? Beetroot? What am I supposed to do with Oh no. Hello internet, welcome to Wifies, the show that takes pride in answering questions you never asked. Lore-wise, the end is definitely the most mysterious dimension in Minecraft, but of all the various mysteries, one looms over the rest and has been left unanswered for 11 years now. What on Earth is the Ender Dragon? At first, it seems like this isn't really a question worth asking, it's just a naturally spawning dragon. But if you look closely, there's a ton to unpack here that tells a completely different and far darker story. A story that the dragon is not at all what it seems. The end is split into two halves, the central island with the dragon and the outer end islands. The outer end islands are characterized with chorus fruit and end cities, while the inner end island has the classic dragon setup we're all familiar with. But already this should be weird. For one, why is the shape and layout of the end so unnatural? The central end island is the only land within 1,000 blocks of the spawn platform. There is no phenomenon like this anywhere else in the dimension. It's all uniform from here on out. For two, where's the chorus fruit? Isn't it a bit strange that there's no chorus fruit growing on the central island? It seems like this island is totally out of place among the rest of the end dimension, something we don't see at all in the nether or overworld. But to understand why this all is, we need to solve the greatest mystery of all, the Ender Dragon. The Ender Dragon is famously the final boss of the game. That is, beating it unlocks really the only ending the game offers you. It is the most significant accomplishment you can make in Minecraft, so what's so special about this one mob? For one, it's the only mob in the game that can actually be respawned with a special ritual. Only one dragon can exist in a glitchless world at a time. The Ender Dragon is also the only mob that you can't spectate in spectator mode, and the only mob that doesn't power a skull catalyst. Despite dropping tons of XP, the Ender Dragon will not activate a skull catalyst, which is meant to absorb the life in a mob. It's also the only mob that takes no damage from the void, nor does it take any damage from neither wither nor poisoning. To not take damage from wither or poison is one thing, but to not take damage from the void is extremely unnatural. There is nothing else in Minecraft that is immune to the void. The endermen, shulkers, and endermites, which also live in the ends, still take damage, but for some reason the dragon is totally immune. The dragon's movement pattern is also very peculiar. It may seem like a random array of swoops and dips, but in actuality the dragon's movement follows an extremely strict pattern. The Ender Dragon has four main states of motion: guarding, strafing, diving, and perching. It cycles through these very specific sets of behavior that give it an almost formulaic motion cycle. Taking it a layer deeper, the Ender Dragon flies around by picking arbitrary nodes around the end and choosing flight paths between those nodes and occasionally perching. Very mechanical pathfinding. Similarly, if you place the dragon anywhere in the overworld, it'll just fly a direct course to 0, and circle around there aimlessly. Again, there is no other mob in Minecraft that acts like this. Almost every other mob has totally random motion, nothing like what the Ender Dragon exhibits. All of these hints seem to lead to a common conclusion. A mob that has a fixed motion pattern, a mob that doesn't activate skull catalysts and doesn't take damage from poison, withering, or the void. A mob that doesn't exist anywhere else and can't spawn naturally. Could it be that the Ender Dragon is a man-made robot? I mean, the advancement "is it a plane" that comes from looking at the Ender Dragon through a spyglass definitely implies so, but this is a very strange conclusion to draw. Before I expand that argument further, we have to figure out how and why an Ender Dragon would even be made in the first place. The current leading theory in Minecraft lore is that before you, the player, spawned into the world, it was inhabited by an ancient race of builders like yourself who created all of the structures you can find. At some point in their history, these builders went extinct, likely due to some combination of the Wither and Warden, leaving the Minecraft world empty. If the Ender Dragon was a man-made robot, it would be these ancient builders that brought it to life. But why? Why would the builders purposefully create this dragon that attacks them? It makes no sense. Before we go into what their reason might be, let me try to sway any of you who are still on the fence as to this dragon being a man-made robot. Besides the dragon and the fountain, there is one more thing that belongs to the main end island. That is the pillars. Now, at the very very least, you can absolutely not tell me that these things are natural. They are obsidian pillars with iron bars on some of them. These are man-made. End crystals are also craftable, so it's likely that this entire setup was constructed by the ancient builders. But why? These end crystals clearly serve one purpose: to heal the dragon and keep it alive. They are what gives the dragon the ability to regenerate health. The ancient builders wanted to keep this dragon alive. One possible interpretation of how they do this is through radiation. End crystals are almost definitely radioactive in some way. They are highly unstable crystals that can explode. It could be that they are powering the dragon with radioactive energy, an energy that the dragon then disposes the waste of through its fire breath. This purple toxic cloud may be built up radiation that the dragon is emptying, like a machine dumps waste. But it seems weird that the ancient builders would know exactly how to heal and protect a random mob they never encountered, and what seems more likely is that they created the dragon to be able to be powered by radiation from the end crystals. To this end, the bones of the ender dragon are the same color as the wings and particles coming from the wings of the phantom, and interestingly the same color as the particles in the basalt delta, a biome with a literal Geiger counter, a radiation measurement tool playing in the background. There is definitely a link of radiation here. This is also where a little bit of personal headcanon comes in. One of the weirdest details in the end is the inclusion of beetroot in end city chests. I mean, the most stacked gear in the game, and then beetroot, the most useless crop. Why? Well, funnily enough, this actually real, very scientific article details an experiment done on mice being fed beetroot, showing that beetroot has very powerful anti-radiation effects. Maybe the builders brought it here to protect them from the radiation from the dragon. Or maybe I'm insane and it's just a funny contrast. Believe whatever makes you happy. The final important detail we have yet to consider is the dragon's actual death. When the dragon is low on health and when it really dies, it begins to emit cracks of light, sort of like a robot. But the really interesting phenomenon is what happens after. But before I get into that, I have one important message. Whenever one of you watching subscribes to the channel, this code will automatically find the average color of your profile picture, map it to the most similar color in Minecraft, and then create a custom firework based on your color. And 3 videos from now, I'm going to have a fireworks show with all of your individual fireworks. So to claim your own unique firework and be a part of the show, then be sure to subscribe. It's free, you'll get notified when I upload, and I promise you won't regret it. But back to the dragon's death. When the dragon dies, 3 things happen. 1, an egg is spawned on the egg platform. Notice, by the way, that the egg is spawned, not laid. One could argue that because the dragon lays an egg, it must be alive and organic, but the ender dragon doesn't actually lay anything. The egg materializes out of nowhere regardless of where the dragon is. Other mobs do lay eggs, for instance turtles, and those eggs, like sniffer eggs too, eventually hatch. The dragon egg will not hatch in a matter of time. The second and third interesting things that happen after the dragon's death, though, is the formation of 2 portals. The end portal in the fountain is opened, and the end gateway also materializes out of nowhere. The formation of these 2 portals reveals something extremely important. The ability to travel and exit the end is dependent on the state of the dragon. The existence, or lack thereof, of the dragon is a switch that determines if a player can travel the end or is trapped. And to my previous point, the egg could just be symbolic of this switch. This may seem obvious, but it implies something crucial. If the dragon can influence the creation and destruction of end portals, it either implies the Minecraft world has inherently magical logic properties, or more significantly, that if the dragon is man-made, then the builders who built it had the power to control end portals and purposefully trap themselves in the end. To that end, the end portal in the stronghold is somewhat of an anomaly in Minecraft lore. Its existence is a paradox. It's created out of blocks that we, the player, seemingly have no ability to craft. The end portal frames. This can be written off as the ancient builders just having better technology than us, like reinforced deep slate. But unlike reinforced deep slate, the end portal frames are unbreakable. These are the only other naturally generating unbreakable blocks we see in Minecraft, besides bedrock, and the only ones that seem like they were placed by hand. Their texture is very clearly endstone, so if the ancient builders constructed these portal frames, how did they manage to obtain the endstone for them without being in the end first? first. This mystery goes extremely deep and warrants its own mini theory video, which will be posted on my second channel this week, so be sure to subscribe there, link in the description. But for the purposes of solving the Ender Dragon itself, let's just stick to the assumption that the ancient builders constructed the end portal and traveled to the end. Why would they have done this? Well, one of the leading theories in Minecraft lore is that the ancient builders accidentally created the Wither, which drove them to creating the strongholds for protection and eventually hiding in the end dimension as a means to escape its wrath. The original theory of Minecraft is that when they arrived in the portal, they were met with the dragon, a beast so strong that none of them were able to get back. But with the narrative of the dragon being man-made, suddenly we get a totally different story. What if when the builders first traveled through the end portal, it created the fountain on the other side, just like traveling through a nether portal also creates a portal in the nether? The ancient builders would have arrived to just find an island, and who's to say that they didn't travel back and forth multiple times? They would travel from the fountain back to the overworld stronghold, slowly bringing more and more materials over. They traveled outwards and built cities from the local chorus fruit to live in, and then they began experimenting. The problem of the Wither was looming. Soon it would reach their strongholds and they would have to evacuate. They had to ensure that a disaster like the Wither would never happen again, so they decided to lock themselves in the end. They worked on developing a robot that wouldn't let anyone else leave the end dimension to keep the builders from harming the overworld any longer, and after a while of testing, they had done it. A robotic monster programmed to switch on and off the end portal whenever it was spawned, powered by radioactive crystals the builders had created. They built obsidian pillars and covered some of the crystals to make them harder to destroy, to ensure that nobody would return to the overworld and have to face the Wither. They built the robot to ensure that even if the Wither arrived, it would be immune and strong enough to fight back. They honored the robot with heads on their end ships and isolated the main end island into the center of the void so that no one living in the cities could ever go back and kill their protector, living out the rest of their days in the end, safe from the Wither, but never reaching the overworld again. And that is the story of Minecraft's Ender Dragon. But that's just my theory. If you want to discuss more Minecraft lore and give ideas for future videos, then join the Discord server linked in the description. If you want to look at probably the strangest Easter egg in Minecraft lore, click the video on the left, or if you want to learn the story of how the ancient builders turned into Endermen, click the video on the right. But thank you so much for watching, subscribe to claim your own unique firework, and as always, peace out, have a good one, I'll see you next time.